What the deal? This is T Money, and you are now watching the T Money podcast joint right here. We got my girl Stax Cadero as my co-host in the building. How you doing, Stax?
What's going on, T Money? How are you?
Yeah, we all right. We all white. No, we not all white, because we all white sometimes to get all right. You know, be all wrong.
We all black around here.
You know, we all black. You
we
know
where
what
we from.
That's right. We
that
you
part.
know, that's right. That part.
What
part.
Africa? Okay.
Wakanda forever. Peace. Two fingers. And today we have a very special guest. It's my man Rack Low from the Low Life Movement. Mm-hmm. What's up, my brother? What's happening, man? Give my man an applause. He's in the building. Big up my boy right here. Big up my boy. What's the deal, man? How you doing?
Everything's good.
Everything good. Okay, no doubt.
Grinding, expanding the culture.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen. Yeah, we gonna get into that with you, man, because you definitely a part of the culture, and you've done what you've done. Today when I was reading up on you, I was just like, this speaks a lot to what the culture is supposed to represent. Mm-hmm. You understand? So we'll get into that, but let's take it back from the very beginning. So you're from BK, correct?
Yeah, Brooklyn.
What part of Brooklyn you from?
Crown Heights and Brownsville.
Can't get no tougher than that. You know what I mean?
Man.
Brownsville, the home of Mike Tyson, right?
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
what I mean? Salute to you, good buddy. So So Low in your name is a variation from the word polo, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So, and we'll get into that too, but just so everybody knows, just keep that in mind as we continue our conversation. So, so being from Brooklyn, which formulated a lot of challenges. So what year did you graduate from high school? Or did you graduate from high school?
Nah, I didn't graduate high school.
Right.
Actually, I never even attended high school.
You never attended it. Oh, okay. See,
Yeah.
that says something to me right now. So,
Yeah.
and you were definitely part of the street life, right, in Brooklyn,
From
right?
early on. Yeah.
So, talk to us a little about your street life, and I know you were part of the gangs, and you shoplifted, and you did a lot of things. So, talk to me a little about how everything happened.
I was raised like in a 2-parent household, in Brooklyn, New York, Crown Heights to be specific. Before I sort of like went over into the Brownsville.
And what I was trying to get at when I asked you about your graduating from high school, I was trying to get an idea of what year this was.
Yeah.
So tell me around what year we're talking about.
We're talking like 88,
88.
89.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 88,
Okay.
89.
Okay.
So just as a young kid in Brooklyn, living in a 2-parent household. I got 6 brothers and sisters.
Oh wow!
And early on, as a youngster, just was out there, grinding and just trying to find my way as far as survival. Had a lot of friends and associates around me, and the motto and the theme every day was to get money. You know, and we would pretty much just find different outlets and opportunities where we were able to have, finances, even though it was like small change at that particular time, just, having a mindset of being independent, not really relying on my parents to do too much for me because they had to provide, for 6 other.
5 other siblings, right.
Yeah, so just, on the grind in the street and being a part of hip-hop culture. That's something that I'm really heavily rooted in, hip-hop, and that was sort of like something that sort of like guided me, taught me, gave me knowledge and direction, and some sort of stability, as far as the direction I wanted to go in life.
The hip hop culture, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the hip hop culture. The 5 elements, and you definitely personified one of the elements, which was fashion, correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for us, like we look at fashion as the 5th element of hip hop.
It is.
With the MC and the DJ and the breakdancing and the graph,
graffiti art, right?
Yeah, it's hand in hand, And as lowlifes, and even as a youngster, living in Crown Heights, we always wanted, to look fly and to like get things that weren't really accessible for people,
So in fact, and you guys weren't working, so you were able to pay for it. So you boosted it for the most part, right?
We found,
found creative ways to go about
to get it, yeah.
Right,
and boosting and shoplifting, that was like our resource to get it. Like living in Brooklyn in Crown Heights, like it was just like a big community of shoplifters and boosters, and it wasn't just lowlifes,
Right.
You had crews on Nostrand Avenue, Kingston, Franklin Avenue.
So it was a thing.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a big thing.
It was like a lifestyle.
Right.
You know, yeah.
And you know what's so funny? Like when I was reading this, I was bugging because I never thought that was like, you got your friend that comes in the barbershop and be like, yo, I got this, I got the
Right,
polo, I got the
right.
hats, right? And either somebody gave it to him or he boosted it his or herself, right? Right? They go in the store, they do whatever, they wear the baggy clothes, they do whatever. Like like you seen in Friday. Right? So you figure that's a solo operation. But in doing a research on Rack, right? I realized that it was like a cultural thing. It was a thing. Like everybody, it was crews of people doing this,
Yeah.
right? So
Somebody got to distract. Somebody got to be the lookout. Somebody gonna be this. You got a couple stuffers.
Yeah, that was incredible. So like this is what you guys did. So you went and you boosted because obviously you didn't have the money to dress the way you wanted to. So
yeah, I know, like for me specifically, like my parents, they weren't really able to provide the high end brands just because it was expensive, and I just had to find a way for on my own to get it.
Of course, because Polo Ralph Lauren wasn't targeted to us at all. I mean, Polo was created by a couple of guys that went to Yale and Harvard, and they weren't actually targeting the brand to us, and you know how we do. You know what I mean? If we see something sexy or something nice,
we see it and we gonna swag it out.
We gonna swag it out. That's how it go down. So that's what you guys did, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then it was all about survival. Like really trying to acquire the American dream on how we interpreted it at that particular time.
Right.
And going shoplifting and boosting, like Manhattan was like pretty much our playground.
Right. Oh, okay.
Like we never really stayed on our block hanging out on the corners. We always found ourselves in Manhattan just to get that inspiration and that drive.
Right.
Whether it was Park Avenue, Lexington Avenue, Madison, Herald Square, all these rich areas, and that was like sort of the inspiration for us to sort of like tap into the American dream and realize like where America was going, as far as from a fashion standpoint and a financial standpoint. Yeah.
That's what's up. But during your time doing this, you were in the low lives. The low lives were considered the gang, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you actually you were shot, right? And you actually even went to jail for a period, correct?
Definitely.
So talk to us a little about those experiences. I mean, because first of all, getting shot ain't no joke. You know what I mean? So
definitely.
I don't care what anybody say. Everybody talk about how tough you are. You get shot, you start acting different. You know what I mean?
So like Low Lights officially started in 1988. That's like for us, like that's like the golden era of hip hop. That's when hip hop was at like at its height.
Yeah, no question.
You had like all the illest MCs, DJs coming out that really had a message. So it was 1988, and by me living in Crown Heights, which it was like that's in the St. John's area. We call it like St. John's and Utica.
Okay.
And then I migrated into Brownsville. So as me, being able to live in both places, at some point I decided to sort of like unite both of the crews because we had like power in numbers. And both sectors, they pretty much had the same values and morals, the same likes.
How many people you think there were in both groups?
I would say it was like, in the beginning, probably like 100, 150. Yeah.
Right.
And then after a while, it sort of like just grew legs and expanded. You know, it started going from, started in Brooklyn, throughout, New York City, the 5 boroughs. And then it sort of like went to Connecticut, Philadelphia, Boston, you know what I'm saying, Virginia.
Wow.
So it just grew like that. But I think what really, made us unite and really like stand strong as a team was the culture of hip hop. Like I said earlier, we never really, hung on the corners. When we got fly and we dressed up, we went to the hip hop clubs. You know? So you would find us in like Union Square, Latin Quarters, Red Zone, Midtown 43. And like just being amongst all of, the people that was having a tremendous impact on hip hop culture. And they was able to recognize our contributions, our existence, and the way we sort of like moved throughout New York City, like they would call us like the knapsack kids or the polo kids, because when they seen us, we was crazy deep, and we was fly, you know, like the stuff we wore just, you know, just attracted people, you know, and even like moving throughout New York City, a lot of people would assume that we were well off, financially stable because the clothes that we wore,
the way you presented.
yeah, our presentation was sort of like it was unseen or unheard of for
Right.
kids from like urban America. So people automatically assumed that, you know, we was financially fit or our parents had money, but we had methods to, you know, to acquiring these garments and clothes.
It's very interesting. This is a round robin of. Think about this. You guys were in a gang. You stole or you boosted Polo paraphernalia. Let's keep it there.
Yeah.
Right? Now listen to this. So you boost that
I saw it.
and get right. I seen it too. Don't get it twisted. It ain't none of my business. I was like, oh, go ahead, my man, do you, right? In great numbers, right? In the greatest city in the world,
Yes.
right? Your influence, right, on the hip hop culture, a la Grand Puba Maxwell, a la great MCs, right? Transmit that same energy to the world. I contributed to that.
Yeah.
By the way, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
then the brand itself, who was never marketing their brand to urban culture, gets an urban designer or two. Now they brand Polo to the urban culture because they know it'll generate income.
Definitely.
So it's a whole round robin of craziness, but it first had to come from corruption,
Yeah.
which is crazy, right?
But you know, like style starts on the street. You know, being fly.
Very true.
And really expressing yourself through fashion starts on the street. So even after a while, Ralph Lauren started to take heed, and he understood our impact
Right.
culturally. You know, and not just in New York City. I'm talking about throughout America and now
Worldwide.
And now
Yeah.
the coaches on a global level. You know. So like I do this event called Low Goose on the Deuce. I do it every year. I started it in 2010. So it's like I pretty much bring all the low heads and low lights together, and your collectors and all that. We pretty much head to Times Square, and you bring out your flyest polo rules.
Nice.
You know,
That's
and
dope.
I mean, I have people flying out from all over, man, different countries, and we gather up there, and the impact that we have is tremendous. You know, just seeing all the tourists being around the bright lights, and it was times when Ralph Lauren Corporation, they even had to join us at that particular event, you know, because like our impact is just so monumental as far as having influence on all populations, kids, teenagers, adults, like a lot of lowlights right now, they're like in their 50s, but they're still carrying on the legacy,
Right.
And one of the things that they realized is that our movement is multicultural, meaning that we bring people and we bridge that gap for all ethnicities to come together for the love of fashion and love and loyalty, brotherhood, sisterhood, and just having a strong community of people that that understand, what we have to do as a people, as a community, what we stand for, and some of the great things we can accomplish,
Right.
in totality with the power
Right.
that we pretty much have.
That's really incredible. Just your eye for fashion from such a young age, you'd end up contributing, so heavily to Ralph Lauren to the
Yeah.
point where you have his attention. And he's like, "Who is this guy? Who are these kids?"
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
Was there ever
really,
any
really
backlash from the
incredible. Wow.
brand itself once they knew that you guys initially boosted the brand?
No,
They never said anything
no,
to
it
you about
wasn't.
that?
Actually, they really accepted it. Like when I do interviews, I be trying to like shy away from the negative aspects of it.
Right,
But
right.
they be like, "No, man, we want you to talk about
Oh,
the
okay.
days when y'all used to run up in the store." So I think that was like one of the main attractions.
Because they're trying to, I guess they want to figure out, because like I said, it's a round robin. It's the dynamic on that is incredible. And it's because you did it in numbers. You did it in such great numbers that it caused them to say, "Hey, look at what we're doing." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then hip hop actually supported that on a great level. Like people like Thurston Howell,
Yeah.
right? Even him, right?
Oh, yeah,
And Grand
sure.
Poobah, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were advocates. I mean, and then on top of it, there were other low lives too that were actually rappers who made
Yeah, rest in
impact.
peace, Boostin' Cab.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
like one of the first low
yeah,
lives that sort of like expressed it through the music
right.
as well.
And
Yeah.
and as you know, if fashion is heavy in the street, it becomes like what you guys are doing, like DAP, like anybody that does fashion and the street. I mean, and Stax can tell you because Stax is originally from the one of the greatest fashionistas areas in New York City that ever existed on this planet, Harlem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the Renaissance, through everything, it's the same. I mean, I'm talking about back when people
Gucci.
Gucci,
Louis, the
Louis.
MCM Prince, and the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
Oh
is,
yeah, go
right,
back, right,
with Dap, now he is like the same way you are. You know,
right.
hand in hand with
With Gucci.
with
Yeah.
with the designer, because it's like, okay, wow, you did this with this print, and so now like the trench coat, everything that he did just for people on the street and for like the the artists and stuff, now you know now
Right.
his folks
Yeah.
now his folks can wear it, but Dap is still designing it. So it's just it's 360. It comes back. How does that feel for you? Because you've had this vision, and you saw it as as something that you had to have. And I'll just say this: in high school, everybody had to have polo. And my
Yeah.
friend, her son, his dad is from Brooklyn. He buys him nothing but polo. So you
Yeah.
still have this heavy influence in Brooklyn, right? You still have this heavy influence where everybody from Brooklyn gravitates towards polo.
Yeah. So like it's like a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the uniform that we wear and people recognize it. So like if you're wearing polo, so we created this style called low down, where everything you wear from head to toe had to be Ralph. And that was something that Ralph Lauren never even, illustrated on his own. He pretty much looked at us and seeing, our interests, what were like some of our favorite pieces, and he sort of like emulated that. Even like in the last few years, he retroed a lot of the pieces from the 80s. You
Right.
know, and because he know that there's a particular market to present those pieces to. So he retroed a lot of the pieces, and yeah, people are still a part of it. They're still on board. They're still excited about the movement. And like I said, man, it became a worldwide affair. But being a youngster in Brooklyn and being a part of the hip hop scene, we didn't even know we was making history. We was just
Yeah, you
living.
never know when you're in it.
Yeah, we
You
was just
never know
living
you're in
day
it.
to day.
Right.
Being a part of New York City nightlife.
Because you're doing what you love. You never know when you're in
Yeah.
it. Trust me. I mean, I had the same kind of. It's the same exact thing. Like when I did television.
Yeah.
We were just doing it. You don't conceptually understand that you're groundbreaking. That you're doing something that's going to last forever. That
Yeah.
you're creating history. You don't have that foresight. Like that doesn't happen while you're in the moment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but I wanted to say that what you guys accomplished, it's sort of like a lot of these companies, a lot of major companies. Now I'm not just talking about fashion. I'm talking about automotives, and I'm talking about computers. I'm talking about any major company, right? They rely on their urban marketing to come up with new concepts. I mean,
The
Again-
influence.
again, I'm talking. I'm taking stacks back to when I was a kid. And I didn't know that's when I was a kid. But you ever see Cutlass Supreme when they have the half and half Landau roofs, like with the vinyl on one side and the metal on the other? That came from the street. Because they would buy the cars. People in Harlem would buy the cars, and they would design the roof themselves. So someone from Buick or GM saw that and was like, "Oh, we're gonna do that on our next car."
Yeah.
So they always look to see what the street is doing with their brand.
That's
White wall tires.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first platform they check for,
Yeah, yeah.
So if it's represented heavily in the streets, it gives them a green light to go to
Right.
manufacture and to
Right.
distribute.
Because they
at a
said
high
because they
level.
realized that if we make it, we can mass produce it and make money. You know what I'm saying? So that and you introducing all these things to the brand, You know, truth be told, I'm not too sure if they have, but Ralph should be writing your guys a check. I don't
Yeah,
I
no,
don't understand where the money at. You know what I mean?
no, they
Where the
definitely
money, right?
they definitely cut checks in the past.
Okay.
And currently, like I just left London, so
Right.
you know they granted me access to the Polo Mansion, the corporate side of things.
Nice.
And
Nice.
they showed us everything that's coming out for next season.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely had to speak to them about a possible collaboration as far as a low life line sponsored directly by Ralph
Yeah, I was
Lauren.
gonna ask you,
Yeah.
is Low Life doing, and that's what you guys are doing now. Are you guys growing as it relates to Low Life and the brand itself? Have you branded yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely,
Right?
man. Yeah.
Right.
So in 2016, we released our own low life line.
Mm-hmm.
They could check that out at lowlife.com.
Mm-hmm.
But we got like a whole line of hoodies, t-shirts, pretty much the whole gamut, that we
Right.
representing. And then about a year ago, I released the low life sneakers.
Oh, really?
Got our own footwear out.
Mm.
Yeah. So even though we're representing the Ralph Lauren brand, we still understand that the significance of branding ourselves, our name, and like just carrying forward our legacy. So like low lights and Ralph Lauren is like synonymous. It goes hand in hand.
Right.
But we understand the power and
Right.
having your own branding and bringing that to reality and letting people see the progression, like where we started from like in 1988 up into now.
Right.
Yeah.
Incredible journey.
Yeah.
So is all of this documented in your bio?
Yeah. So I released my first book. It's called Low Life: An American Classic. I
Okay.
released that in 2016,
Mhm.
and then last year, well, the ending of last year, I released my second one, the autobiography of Rack Low,
Mm-hmm.
which it pretty much highlights, my life, growing up in Brooklyn, my childhood,
Right.
the relationships I had with my parents, my educational background, my experiences with like Sparford and Rikers Island,
Okay.
and what sort of like made me want to make a transition from negative to positive,
Mm-hmm.
to sort of like impact and guide the youth in a more positive direction.
Do you speak to the youth today in regards to something?
Yeah, definitely, man. So
Okay.
my currently like my 9 to 5, I'm a career counselor.
Oh, okay.
So I work with various populations. I work with veterans, families, the youth, and pretty much just trying to connect people with employment opportunities and career opportunities, so they can just have some stability
Right.
and just have like a roadmap to get to their destinations as
Right.
far as being successful.
It's extremely important,
Yeah.
for all of us, if we have anything to actually reach back to try to teach and show the youth, give them a path to
Yeah.
success. And this is his book, ladies and gentlemen, the autobiography of Rack Low, right?
Yeah.
Where can they get this?
They could get this on SimonandSchuster.com. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
SimonandSchuster.com. Make
yeah.
sure you pick it up.
So the first book was it was distributed by Penguin Random House.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And
Right,
then the second one, we sort of like stepped it up, and Simon and Schuster stepped in,
right. Okay,
and now they're doing the distribution.
and that's big time. You
Yeah.
know, you can't get
Big
no
shout out
bigger
to
than that.
Powerhouse too. Powerhouse Books. They definitely helping out as far as being the publisher.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
no
like
doubt.
I'm the first official published author when it comes to like the Low Life family.
This is
Awesome.
really dope.
Whereas I
bro.
have like major backing behind it, and it's available on an international level. They can get it anywhere online in major bookstores.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So this is really dope, man. And what's up with the skateboard?
Oh yeah. So we did the skateboard. What
That's
last
the
year?
low
Ron?
life skateboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that, but I want
Yeah.
everybody to see the back.
I'm seeing it. Yeah.
You see if you can see the back.
Yeah.
The back is crazy.
Yeah. So you see the Racklow graphic.
The graphic
So, like,
on the back. Yeah.
For us, it's all about like constant elevation and expanding.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, we collaborated with Chapman Skateboards,
Oh, okay.
facilitated by my bro Ron,
Mm-hmm.
and we just want to try to like step into action sports now,
Oh, see.
because we understand, the impact it has, and we're just trying to like always bridge and bring new communities into what we're
Awesome.
doing.
This is super
You know,
dope, bro.
And
This,
provide high quality products for the people.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. So,
Wow.
so no question. I'm looking at these codes. I think Raising Canaan. The
Yeah.
girl on Raising Canaan had one of these coats on. This polo joint right
Yeah.
here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man. That's
And actually, my man Prince Lowe, he styles all the actors in Raising Canaan.
oh, so they explained
Nice.
it. That's
So
why.
they got the clothes directly from the low life family.
That's dope.
Yeah, man.
See,
That's what I was
that's real
thinking
dope.
because
Yeah.
that-
That's, and that's the way it should be. You know?
Right.
Yeah. It's the way it should
right.
Yeah, man, that quote is really familiar because she had that, and they were boosting. That's crazy how they were boosting
Yeah.
on the episode, and then they were wearing the
Yeah.
polo. How cool was that, man?
be. Yeah.
So,
So they pretty much like, you know, like showcasing, you know, our lifestyle,
Right.
the type of clothing that we were into, and just showing people that it's still relevant, you know, in the new millennium.
it is, and
Yeah.
it'll always be, man. Just keep growing and keep your brand going. So tell everybody where they can. Well, you already told them where they can find the book.
But wait, what's the story on this hat?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah,
hat
so
is what's up.
So that's like a
That's a low life hat right
yeah,
there.
that's
So.
like one of my original designs.
Cool.
So yeah, so it's like a 5-panel hat. It did pretty well on the market, you know. When I first pressed it up, it sold out immediately.
I can see why.
Wow.
As far as, you know, people wanting to have it, because like we deal with like collectors items, you know.
But they were rocking that joint back in the day. That hat, the polo joint, that
Yeah.
style.
With the
Yeah.
cookie,
Yeah,
They
that
was
style.
definitely rocking that.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So like I said earlier, you know, I also became like an international traveler.
Okay.
So we have like chapters in Paris, Mexico, London,
Oh, wow.
the Netherlands, you know, Germany, Australia. I mean, the list goes on. And what I do is I travel to these different countries and just, you know, network, meet the different chapters, the members of the chapters, and we pretty much just have celebrations because I'm also an artist too. So I get
Right.
a chance to travel the world, perform live. The same fashion show that I do here in New York City, Times Square,
Right.
I take it to those different countries, and we also have those type of affairs out there as well.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta let us know when you're doing something here, man, because I want to come through. You know what I mean?
So every
Yeah.
January,
'Cause I tell you, I wear polo too, man. I don't play that. I wear that polo too, son. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I take it on back, son. You know what I mean?
and going to London, man,
Yeah.
it was an amazing experience because, you know, we got a chance to, you know, demonstrate and show our lifestyle in front of Buckingham Palace,
Oh,
Nice.
really?
Big Ben,
Wow.
Trafalgar Square. So yeah, and just, you know, just getting a chance to see the different type of lifestyle and energy that the people in the UK, you know,
That's dope.
represent.
That's
And
dope.
they're highly appreciative of what we created.
Yeah.
They recognize it, they salute us, and they're just excited to be a part of the movement, man.
The polo
And
has
one thing
always
about
been a
this
hot. I'm
movement,
sorry. Go ahead.
like it goes through all age brackets, you know. Like you have kids, like newborn babies that's born into this world, and their parents already have low waiting for them,
Right.
you
Right.
know. And then
Right.
they grow up to be teenagers and young adults, and they still
Wow.
carry on the legacy.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Because it's what they're accustomed to.
Yeah.
So just to take you back just for a moment, what was that like for you to actually be in the place where the clothes are manufactured?
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's
it was,
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was an amazing feeling, and just seeing how they recognize us. You know, me walking in the Polo Mansion and being in corporate, because like, you know, being in the Polo Mansion where the clothes is at is one thing as a consumer, but they had me in a corporate element. You know, so I got a chance to meet with the executives, the people that's actually designing the clothing, and you know, when people start, you know, they approach you as you being a legend,
Right.
a trendsetter. It just, you know, it gives you this feeling of, you know, appreciation,
Yeah.
you know. But at
'Cause
the
you
same
are.
time, I understand it's all business, you know. So
Right.
even though we're representing, you know, Ralph Lauren and being like walking billboards, we still understand the importance of our business
Right.
as a culture and as individuals, you know.
Right.
So it's about cutting the checks, you know.
That's right. Never, that's right. That's right, baby.
Right.
Get the money,
Never
yeah.
lose that energy, man. Cut the check, baby.
Right.
Cut
do
the
you,
check.
Do you have like? Do they now supply you with your clothing in addition to cutting the checks? Do they now say, "Hey, is there anything in here that you would like to walk away with today, or do you get a deep discount? Like, or can you
Yeah.
not share that?"
Yeah. So we're like ambassadors for the brand. So
Dope.
they definitely you know, provide clothing for us. My bro Thurston Howard III, he was like an actual model for
Yeah,
one of the lines,
that's
the
right.
Snow Beach line.
He
you
was,
know?
yeah.
And I mean, you can see it all over the internet. You know, it's heavily advertised. They had him in like billboards all around the world. So they definitely they're paying homage to us, you know, and they understand what we represent. And like
Yeah.
I said, I think one of the greatest things that we were able to accomplish is we're bringing people from all walks of life together. I mean, I think that's a lesson that society can learn from. You know,
Right.
like just bringing people together under these different concepts. You know, and we represent love and loyalty. You know, like
Right.
love for yourself, your family, your community,
Right.
love for health, wealth. You know, and just making sure all of that manifests while you're here living, you know.
Right.
Beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
that's incredible. We had an artist by the name of Elder Sensei
Oh yeah, it's my
on it.
bro. Yeah,
That's,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah,
low life.
yeah. He is because he rock polo like crazy. You know,
Yeah.
it's and he was on the show too, man. So salute to you, man. I appreciate you for being here, man.
Yeah, man.
'Cause
Definitely happy to be
this is
here.
amazing. This is thank you very much. Look. Hey, Rob, look here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. No doubt, man. Yo, look, man. Let everybody know where they can find your merchandise. Let them know where they can find you online. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. So they
Right here to this camera, right here, good
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah. So you can get the book at SimonandSchuster.com or PowerhouseBooks.com.
Right.
And the skate deck, they can check it out at ChapmanSkateboards.com.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah, yeah.
I like the skate. I haven't skateboarded when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but this is hot
Really
right here.
thinking outside the box.
Yeah, and I got to
Yeah.
shout out because like even though it was like low lives, which is like predominantly, men
Right.
and males, we also had a sector called the low wives,
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
dope.
where our female counterparts was also a part of the history and the lifestyle as
Oh,
well.
that's dope.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
gotta shout out my wife, Sheena, the
okay.
original low wife.
That's right.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
hey,
So
Sheena.
we
Sheena,
have
that's
like-
right, Sheena.
We have like a
And Low Kid, I saw too.
Yeah, look, my son as well.
Mhm.
So like I
Oh.
said, it's all age brackets,
That's
and we bring
dope.
everybody into the fold.
Yeah, like I
know?
said, man, before I even started talking to you, I read your story. I was like, this is crazy right here. But this is amazing.
Yeah, and they can look up my new book.
Yeah,
So
but
this is my second
the
one.
second
I'm
one?
working on my third one. I'm gonna release this year. It's called A Low Life Love Story, and that's where I talk about black love, and the importance of having companionship, a
Right.
relationship, and
Right.
having a partner that's in it to win it with you.
Right, right.
Because we can't do it alone.
Right.
Right.
So yeah. So my wife plays a major, huge role in what I do
Right.
in my overall development. How I even made the transition from being a person on the street and living street life into coming into understanding about my future, my direction, and the importance of being educated. So she played a huge role in that.
Did you go back to school?
Yeah. So I
Okay.
went back to school. Like I said, I never went to high school.
Right.
But she was one of the reasons why I decided to return to get my GED, and then I was able to go into college where I acquired my bachelor's degree,
Okay.
and I utilized my educational history to pretty much do the job I do now, which is a career counselor,
Okay.
and I'm able to meet with professionals in different facets of society.
Okay.
I meet with principals, probation officers, parole officers, and just executives in throughout New York City and New York State as far as community-based organizations
Right.
helping people. So I look at myself as a people's person and like a human service provider
Absolutely.
for the unfortunate. So for me, it's all about empowering others to take charge of their destinies,
Okay.
And just the last thing is, and this is something I'm going to be bringing forth this year. So I know as low lives and as a community, we sort of like mastered and created like a fashion revolution.
Right.
But now I want to take it to a new element, and that's like building a financial revolution.
Right.
The importance of economics and knowing the power of our collective dollar
Right.
as a community.
Right.
And start investing. Whether it's a stock market, real estate, becoming entrepreneurs, but as a collective.
Right.
Because there's over like 250 low life links, hashtags,
Right.
if you look on Instagram and all that. So just trying to bring the community together and have them understand that with our collective dollar, we can make some real power moves.
Yeah, without question.
Because people spend a lot of money on polo, but like I said, we have to think about where we're going as a people and our destination.
Without question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without question. And we need to teach that.
Yeah,
Financial intelligence is very important.
yeah.
So.
Definitely. Like I was looking at a podcast, Roland Martin. He's like a
right.
journalist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he said, if we're not having a money conversation, we're not having an American conversation. And you can see where like Trump is going, Elon Musk and all of them. So
Right.
you just gotta know the power of economics and finances, man, and just having control of that. So
Right.
you can sort of like really give back to the youth and have the youth understand that concept, but also you know, put it into your family structure, in the building of your family.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very true. My man. Woo. That's a mouthful.
Proud of you.
That's proud of you,
Thank
brother.
you.
Salute to you,
real.
man. Salute
For
to you,
real.
bro.
Like your story is very powerful, very inspiring, and I think it's amazing that, you know, in the position that you're in, you are motivating these people to move differently.
Yeah.
Because of your experience, because you have life experience. Like, yo, I was there where you are. You don't have to stay there. It can change for you.
Yeah.
You know, if they just broaden their perspective. It could be fashion for them. It could be photography. It can be anything, because there's always a seed. You know, there's always something that was poured into somebody, but if they don't know to tap in, or if they're not inspired to tap into that, they'll always stay where they are.
Yeah.
You
And like
know.
I got a lot of that from like me being like incarcerated. You know,
Right.
like going through as a youth, just going back and forth to Spofford, and then I landed on Rikers Island. You know, so I told myself I had to be free, and you know, and have my freedom if I wanted to really have an impact and make real noise. As far as, you know, like guiding the people and giving them something different. So just having those periods of incarceration definitely also contributed to my growth and development. And I knew that that wasn't the route for me. You know, like a lot of my friends, you know, throughout, you know, the low life history, a lot of them are deceased because of Polo itself. You know, you had people that would come into our neighborhoods and really come with, you know, guns, stick up kids, because they wanted to be fly and have the Polo as well. So a lot of people lost their lives. A lot of my friends, they caught like decades of, you know, of incarceration, you know, like throughout up north and all that. So I didn't want that path for myself. So I knew I had to make a change. I had to transition and just provide something better for myself. You know, and I just want to share that with the people, and just try to give people, you know, hope, you know, and just let them know that if you really tap into yourself, surround yourself with the right network of people, you give yourself the right tools, and yeah, you just carve out your roadmap, man.
Exactly. And, you know, and I don't think people really understand how incredibly difficult what you accomplished is. You know, coming from where you came from, you know, it's not, no one handed you anything. You went out and you handled your business, and to that, you know, I salute you.
Thank
You
you.
know what I'm saying? Thank you for being here today, brother.
All right.
My brother. Thank you so
Much
much.
love.
Thank you, man. Yo, this is the T-Money Podcast joint. My man Rack Low in the building, Stacks Cordero.
Sir.
We out of here today, man. Thank you very much, bro.
Salute.
Okay, man, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Let us know if there's anything we can do to help. You feel me?
Yeah. So I'll be going to Mexico in June, and
Nice.
also Colombia.
So we'll be going to Mexico in June? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yo, we out of here, man. Peace, two fingers.